Hello, the subject of today's video is Ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt is one of the most fascinating and long-lived civilizations in world history. For more than 3,000 years, from 3100 BC to 30 BC, Egypt flourished on the banks of the Nile River and achieved great political, social, and cultural success. During this time, the Egyptians made many important inventions and discoveries, while at the same time building colossal pyramids, temples, and tombs, leaving an indelible mark on history. This text is a comprehensive survey of ancient Egypt, covering its geography, social structure, religion, art, scientific achievements, daily life, and decline. 1. Geography and the role of the Nile River. Ancient Egyptian civilization flourished thanks to its geographical location. The Nile River, as the heart of Egypt, was the center of civilization. The floods of the Nile irrigated the surrounding land, making agriculture possible and leading to Egypt's prosperity. The Nile River played a central role in every aspect of life in Egypt. The Egyptians called the Nile Itaru and considered it sacred. The regular flooding of the Nile created ideal conditions for agriculture. The fertile black soil was nourished by the mud brought by the Nile every year. Thanks to these regular floods, the Egyptian people were able to produce an abundance of grain and a huge agricultural output that supported the local economy. The Nile was also an important waterway for trade, linking Egypt with the interior of Africa, the Mediterranean, and beyond. Egypt's geographical isolation, especially being surrounded by the Great Sahara Desert to the west, the Mediterranean Sea to the north, and the Sinai Peninsula and the Red Sea to the east, protected Egypt from external threats and ensured the long-term stability of the civilization. This geographical advantage allowed Egypt to develop a distinctive culture and remain relatively safe from external aggression. 2. Political history of Egypt. Dynastic period. The political history of Egypt dates back to the period of dynasties. These periods began with the unification of Egypt and continued for about 3,000 years. Around 3100 BC, Menes or Narmer, considered the first king of Upper and Lower Egypt, united these two regions and established the first centralized state. A. Old Kingdom period, 2686 BC, 2181 BC. The Old Kingdom, Egypt's first major dynastic period, is known as the era when the pyramids were built. During this period, the pharaohs were considered god-kings, and central authority was very strong. One of the most famous pharaohs, Cheops, Khufu, built the Pyramid of Giza. The Old Kingdom is also famous for its step pyramid at Saqqara, the tomb of Djoser. Towards the end of this period, with the weakening of the central authority, there was internal turmoil, and Egypt came under the influence of regional rulers. B. Middle Kingdom period, 2055 BC, 1650 BC. The Middle Kingdom was a period of Egypt's reunification and cultural enrichment. During this period, the pharaohs developed closer relations with the people and initiated major infrastructure works such as irrigation projects. At the same time, literature, art, and trade flourished. The Middle Kingdom became more vulnerable to external threats and eventually ended with the invasion of the Hyksos around 1650 BC. See New Kingdom period, 1550 BC, 1077 BC. The New Kingdom period is the period of Egypt's greatest expansion. During this period, the pharaohs expanded their empire by conquering not only Egypt, but also neighboring countries. Famous pharaohs such as Thutmose III, Ramses II, and Hatshepsut ruled during this period. Especially Ramses II is considered as one of the most powerful pharaohs of Egypt. However, towards the end of this period, the weakening of the central authority and foreign attacks caused Egypt to lose power. 3. Religion and beliefs. In ancient Egypt, religion permeated every aspect of life. Egyptians had a polytheistic religion and believed that gods were behind everything in nature. One of the most important gods was Ra, the sun god, and pharaohs were believed to be Ra's sons. Gods such as Osiris, god of the underworld, and Isis, goddess of fertility, were also of great importance. Egyptians believed deeply in life after death. Therefore, they meticulously prepared their dead and built huge tombs. The process of mummification was a ritual developed to preserve the body of the deceased. It was believed that the body had to remain intact in order for the soul to succeed in its journey to the afterlife. Texts known as the Book of the Dead contained prayers and spells to help the deceased overcome the difficulties they would face on their journey to the afterlife. The Pyramid of Giza was built by Cheops and is one of the largest and best-preserved structures in world history. The pyramids were built to protect the pharaohs in the afterlife and allow them to meet the gods. Their construction reflects a massive workforce, advanced engineering skills, and Egypt's strong centralized state structure. The Sphinx is a giant statue with a human head and a lion's body, located next to the pyramids at Giza, symbolizing the power and protection of the pharaohs. In art, the Egyptians followed a strict order. Pharaohs and gods were always portrayed larger and grander, using a system called the hieratic scale. The side position was preferred in paintings. This was so that the figures could be seen in a better perspective. The Egyptians also developed a writing system called hieroglyphics, which was used for artistic and religious texts, as well as daily records. 5. Science, medicine, and technology. The Egyptians had also reached a very advanced level in science and technology. Astronomy was an important branch of science that the Egyptians used especially in the construction of tombs and temples. The fact that the pyramids and temples were aligned according to the sky shows that the Egyptians closely followed the stars. Their calendar and clock systems were also based on astronomical knowledge. In medicine, the Egyptians acquired important knowledge about anatomy and the treatment of diseases. The practice of mummification helped them gain detailed knowledge about the human body. The Ebers Papyrus, written in Egypt, is one of the oldest written sources containing medical information. These texts contain information on how to treat wounds, diagnose, and treat diseases. Mathematics and geometry were used to build huge structures such as pyramids. Mummification is one of the most remarkable and ritualistic practices of ancient Egyptian civilization. This was done to preserve the body after death and ensure the soul's safe passage to the afterlife. The Egyptians believed in the importance of the body in the journey to the afterlife and therefore developed sophisticated mummification techniques to prevent the body from decomposing. This practice, which had both a religious and cultural basis, was practiced in all sectors of society in ancient Egypt, but was especially elaborate among the pharaohs, queens, and nobility. Mummification, as part of the Egyptian belief system, was directly linked to views on death and the afterlife. Egyptians believed that the soul of a person continued to live on after death. In order for the soul to exist in the afterlife, the body had to be preserved. This belief was closely linked to the mythology of Osiris. Osiris was regarded as the god of the underworld, and the world where the dead were judged and granted eternal life belonged to him. The Egyptians believed that the soul of every human being would be judged by Osiris in the afterlife, and that the body had to be intact to be accepted into eternal life. The preservation of the body was important for the survival of different aspects of the soul, called Ka and Ba. The Ka symbolized the life force and energy of the person, while the Ba was part of the personality and could roam freely after death to return to the body. It was believed that the Ba needed a preserved body